Oakland, California, 1965. A private martial arts demonstration in a rented hall. 70 people packed into wooden folding chairs arranged in rows, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the smell of floor wax. Bruce Lee stands at the front, mid-demonstration, when a traditional kung fu master walks through the door uninvited. What happens in the next 90 seconds doesn't just end a challenge, it destroys the challenger's understanding of what combat actually means. The hall is on the second floor of a community center in Chinatown. You reach it by climbing narrow stairs that creak with each step. At the top, double doors open into a rectangular space with hardwood floors worn smooth by decades of use. Exposed pipes run along the ceiling. 4 large windows on the east wall let in afternoon light that cuts through the smoke in visible beams. Bruce is 40 minutes into his presentation. He's wearing black training pants and a white t-shirt, barefoot. No ceremonial robes, no traditional uniform, just functional clothing that allows complete freedom of movement. He's 24 years old, lean, compact. Doesn't look particularly impressive standing still. Looks like a college student who wandered in by mistake. But he's been demonstrating principles that challenge everything the audience thinks they know about martial arts, showing them that traditional horse stances telegraph your intentions, that flowery hand movements waste time, that the fancy techniques they've spent years perfecting don't work when someone actually tries to hurt you. The audience is split. Half are his students. They've seen this before. They believe. The other half are skeptics. Traditional practitioners who've heard rumors about this young instructor who claims to be revolutionizing kung fu. They've come to judge, to confirm or deny, to see if Bruce Lee is everything people say he is or just another con man selling snake oil to gullible Americans. Bruce is explaining economy of motion, demonstrating on one of his students, showing how a direct line beats a circular path, how simplicity beats complexity, how 3 inches of movement can generate more power than 3 feet if you understand body mechanics. The student attacks with a traditional lunge punch. Bruce doesn't block, doesn't deflect, just moves offline and the punch passes through empty space. Then Bruce's hand is at the student's throat, appeared there. No visible journey, just suddenly present. Some in the audience nod, some look uncomfortable. Bruce is dismantling their beliefs in real time, showing them that what their teachers taught them, what they've practiced for years, what they've built their identity around, might be fundamentally flawed. Then the door opens, hard. The sound cuts through Bruce's explanation like a gunshot. Everyone turns. A man walks in, late 30s, Chinese, traditional black silk uniform, expensive, gold embroidery, dragon patterns, hair pulled back in a queue, face carved from stone, eyes scanning the room with pure contempt. He walks down the center aisle, doesn't excuse himself, doesn't apologize for the interruption, just walks with deliberate authority. People move their chairs to let him pass. He doesn't acknowledge them, just advances toward the front, toward Bruce. Bruce stops talking, watches this man approach, doesn't say anything, just waits. The room goes completely silent, 70 people holding their breath. You can hear traffic from the street below, a car horn, someone coughing, the scrape of a chair against wood. The man stops 15 feet from Bruce, close enough to be confrontational, far enough to maintain formal distance. He looks Bruce up and down slowly, takes in the simple clothes, the bare feet, the lack of traditional presentation. His lip curls with disgust. Then he speaks, in Cantonese first, then English, making sure everyone understands. His voice carries authority, the voice of someone accustomed to being obeyed. He announces himself as a master of traditional Northern Shaolin, 40 years of training, direct lineage from the temple, guardian of authentic Chinese martial arts. He's here because he's heard about Bruce Lee, heard about this young man who disrespects tradition, who teaches sacred techniques to white people and black people who have no right to learn them, who bastardizes ancient wisdom for profit, who claims traditional forms are obsolete. He's here to prove Bruce wrong, to expose him as a fraud, to show everyone in this room that traditional kung fu is superior, that Bruce's modified approach is worthless, that respect for the old ways matters more than innovation. The room explodes. Not with sound, with tension, electric, crackling. 70 people stopped breathing. Bruce's students look angry, ready to defend their teacher. The skeptics look fascinated. This is what they came for. Validation one way or another. Bruce lets the words hang in the air, lets them settle, lets everyone feel them. Then he asks one question, in Cantonese. Calm, quiet, almost polite. What would you like me to do? The master straightens, says he wants to fight. Right now, in front of everyone. No rules. Traditional challenge. Prove which approach is superior. When Bruce loses, when the master exposes him, Bruce will close his school, stop teaching, apologize to every legitimate kung fu master he has disrespected, admit publicly that he is nothing but a fraud selling diluted garbage to people who don't know better. The room is dead silent. This is the moment. Bruce could refuse, could call security, could de-escalate, could do a dozen things that would avoid physical confrontation. But everyone knows he won't, because Bruce Lee doesn't back down. Ever. Not from anyone. Not for anything. Bruce asks another question. Still calm. Still quiet. One exchange? The master laughs. Says one exchange is all he needs. 40 years of training against Bruce's modified nonsense. This will be over in seconds. He'll prove his point. Bruce's reputation will die today. Bruce nods slowly. Says, "Okay, take your best position. Show me your strongest stance. When you're ready, try to hit me." The master removes his expensive silk jacket, hands it to someone without looking. Underneath, he wears a black sleeveless shirt. His arms are thick, muscular, covered in calluses from decades of iron palm training. Real conditioning. Traditional conditioning. The kind Bruce's weekend students with their 6 months of training couldn't possibly understand. He drops into a perfect horse stance, feet wide, knees bent, back straight, hands up in a crane position, textbook form, museum-quality technique, exactly what you'd see in a kung fu manual from 3 centuries ago. Every angle precise, every muscle engaged. 40 years of practice visible in every detail. Bruce doesn't take a stance, just stands there, normal posture, feet shoulder-width apart, hands relaxed at his sides. Not a fighting position, not ready, just standing, like he's waiting for a bus, like he's not about to face a challenge from a master with 4 decades of experience. This infuriates the challenger, the disrespect, the arrogance, the complete lack of traditional form. It proves everything he said. Bruce Lee doesn't understand real martial arts, doesn't respect the old ways, doesn't deserve the reputation people give him. The master centers himself, breathes. 40 years of training condensed into this moment. He's going to throw his best technique, a straight punch backed by perfect form, by traditional power generation, by authentic Chinese martial arts, and he's going to connect, going to prove his point, going to show everyone that tradition beats innovation. He commits. His body moves, perfect mechanics. Weight transfers from back leg to front, hip rotation, shoulder engagement, arm extension, fist traveling in a straight line toward Bruce's face. Fast, powerful, technically flawless. The kind of punch that has dropped opponents for 40 years. Bruce moves not backward, not away, forward into the punch, but offline, 6 inches to the right. The fist passes where his head was a fraction of a second ago, close enough to feel the air move, but missing, cutting through empty space. In the same motion, Bruce's hand appears at the master's throat, not touching, just there, hovering, 1 inch away. The message is absolutely clear. If Bruce wanted to, this would be over. Right now, 1 strike. That's all it would take. The master's eyes go wide, his brain trying to process what just happened. He threw his best punch, 40 years of perfection, and not only did it miss, but he's completely vulnerable, wide open, at Bruce's mercy. Bruce doesn't strike, just holds his hand there, 1 inch from the throat, making the point without making contact. Then he lowers his hand, steps back, returns to his relaxed standing position. The master is breathing hard, not from exertion, from shock, from the realization of how completely exposed he was, how totally ineffective his technique proved to be against someone who understood timing and distance and reading body mechanics. Bruce looks at him, still calm, still quiet. Says, "You telegraphed the punch before it moved. Your shoulder tensed, your weight shifted, your eyes focused. I knew where it was going before your fist started traveling. That's the problem with perfect form. It's predictable." The master stands there, frozen. His entire understanding of martial arts cracking like ice under pressure. 40 years of training, 40 years of perfection, and it meant nothing, absolutely nothing, against someone who understood combat instead of performance. Then Bruce does something that changes everything. He turns his back, completely, fully, just turns around so he's facing away from the challenger, facing the audience, his back exposed, vulnerable, wide open, the ultimate insult, the ultimate statement of dominance, the most devastating psychological attack possible. In Chinese martial arts culture, in traditional kung fu philosophy, turning your back on an opponent means one thing: they are not a threat. They are so far beneath your level that you don't even need to watch them. They are irrelevant, dismissed, not worth the energy of paying attention to. Bruce stands there, back turned, completely exposed, and speaks to the audience, not to the master, to the 70 people watching. His voice is calm, educational, like he's continuing his demonstration, like nothing unusual is happening. This is the difference between form and function, between performance and combat. Traditional stances look impressive. They show discipline. They demonstrate years of training, but they announce your intentions. They limit your options. They make you predictable. Behind him, the master is standing there, still in his crane stance, his fist still extended from the missed punch, his face cycling through emotions, shock, anger, humiliation, confusion. Bruce isn't even looking at him, isn't acknowledging him, has literally turned his back. The ultimate statement that the challenge is over, that the master doesn't matter, that he's been dismissed without even being defeated. The master could attack. Bruce's back is completely exposed, undefended. He could strike right now, hit Bruce from behind. But everyone in the room knows he won't, because attacking someone's back, attacking someone who has turned away, would prove Bruce's point even more completely, would show that traditional honor means nothing, would demonstrate that the master has no confidence in his ability to face Bruce directly. More importantly, everyone in the room understands what just happened. Bruce turned his back because he knows he can, because his awareness is so complete, his reflexes so refined, his understanding of distance and timing so absolute, that he doesn't need to watch the master. He'll feel any movement before it happens, will sense any shift in intention, will respond before the attack develops. Bruce continues speaking to the audience. Real combat doesn't follow forms, doesn't respect tradition, doesn't care about your lineage or your training time. Real combat is about adaptation, reading your opponent, understanding what they're going to do before they do it, and responding with economy, with directness, with effectiveness. The master's shoulders sag, the stance collapses, the perfect form crumbles. He's not being attacked, he's not being mocked, he's being ignored, dismissed, treated as irrelevant, and that's worse than any physical defeat, worse than any knockout or submission. Bruce didn't need to hurt him, didn't need to humiliate him with technique, just turned his back, and that single gesture destroyed 40 years of confidence. Some of the traditional practitioners in the audience look uncomfortable. They came here skeptical, ready to see Bruce exposed as a fraud. Instead, they're watching one of their own, a legitimate master with 40 years of training, being dismissed so completely that Bruce won't even face him. Bruce finally turns around, looks at the master. His expression isn't mocking, isn't cruel, just observant, assessing. You've spent 40 years perfecting your technique. That's admirable. That takes discipline. But technique without adaptation is just choreography. I don't disrespect your training. I question whether your training prepared you for reality. The master stands there, can't meet Bruce's eyes, can't respond. His whole identity was built on those 40 years, on that perfect form, on being a guardian of tradition, and in 90 seconds all of it was proven insufficient. Not by being beaten, by being dismissed, by having someone turn their back because you weren't even worth watching. Bruce takes a step forward, speaks quietly. Only the master can hear. The words are in Cantonese, private, between martial artists. I didn't humiliate you to destroy you. I showed you this because you need to see it. Traditional forms have value. They teach discipline, they build foundation, but they're not the end. They're the beginning. If you're open to learning, I can show you what comes next. The master looks up, surprise in his eyes. He came here to challenge, to expose, to prove Bruce wrong, and Bruce is offering to teach him, not mocking, not gloating, just offering knowledge, offering evolution, offering a path forward. Bruce says, "Your 40 years gave you a foundation most people never achieve, but foundation is not the ceiling. You can keep building, or you can defend what you have and watch it become obsolete. Your choice." The master stands there for a long moment, pride warring with curiosity, ego fighting against the desire to grow, 40 years of certainty crashing against 90 seconds of doubt. Then slowly, very slowly, he bows. Not a courtesy bow, a deep formal bow, the kind a student gives a teacher. Bruce returns the bow, equal depth, equal respect. The challenge is over, not with violence, not with humiliation, with understanding, with an offer extended and accepted. The master picks up his jacket, walks to the back of the room, sits down in an empty chair, stays for the rest of the demonstration, listening, watching, processing, everything he thought he knew about martial arts being reconstructed in real time. Bruce turns back to the audience, continues his demonstration like nothing happened, but everyone in the room knows what they just witnessed. Not a fight, a lesson about confidence, about respect, about the difference between traditional forms and functional combat, about what it means when someone turns their back because they don't need to watch you anymore. 3 weeks later, the master shows up at Bruce's school, doesn't announce himself, just walks in, bows, asks if he can train. Bruce says yes. The master trains with Bruce for the next 2 years, never talks much, never brags about his 40 years, just shows up, works, learns, lets go of perfect form, embraces adaptation, discovers that evolution doesn't mean abandoning tradition. It means building on it, growing beyond it, using it as foundation rather than ceiling. Years later, a journalist asks the master about that day, about the challenge, about having Bruce turn his back on him. The master thinks for a long time, then says, "Bruce didn't beat me with a technique, he beat me with a gesture. Turning his back showed more confidence than any strike could, showed he understood me completely, understood my style, my limitations, my predictability, and it showed he didn't need to prove anything through violence. That single moment taught me more about real confidence than 40 years of training, because real confidence doesn't need to destroy, doesn't need to humiliate, just needs to demonstrate complete understanding, complete control, complete awareness. When someone can turn their back on you mid-challenge, when they can dismiss you not with cruelty but with certainty, that's when you know you're dealing with someone operating on a different level." The master continues, "I spent 40 years perfecting techniques designed hundreds of years ago for different contexts, different weapons, different combat scenarios. I thought perfection meant mastery. But Bruce showed me that perfection of outdated techniques is just elaborate obsolescence. Real mastery means constant evolution, constant adaptation, constant questioning. That day, when he turned his back, I had 2 choices: attack from behind and prove I was exactly what he said I was, bound by form, predictable, unable to adapt, or accept that I'd been operating with incomplete understanding. I chose growth. That choice saved my martial arts, maybe saved my life." The story spreads through the martial arts community, gets retold in schools across California, gets embellished, exaggerated, turned into legend, but the core remains true. The day a traditional master challenged Bruce Lee, the day Bruce responded not with violence, but with psychology, the day he turned his back mid-challenge and ended the confrontation without throwing a strike. Bruce never talks about it publicly, never uses it to promote himself. When students ask, he says only, "Fighting is easy, any fool can throw a punch." Showing someone their limitations without destroying them, that's the real skill. That's where martial arts becomes art instead of violence. Anyone can win a fight through superior technique. But can you win without fighting? Can you end a confrontation by making the other person understand they've already lost? That's the difference between being a fighter and being a master. That principle becomes central to Bruce's philosophy, to his development of Jeet Kune Do, the idea that real combat happens in the mind first, that psychological dominance is more powerful than physical superiority, that understanding your opponent so completely that you can predict their every move, anticipate their every attack, read their every intention, that's the ultimate martial art. When he turns his back during that demonstration, Bruce isn't being arrogant. He's being demonstrative, showing everyone watching what real confidence looks like. Real confidence doesn't need to prove itself through violence, doesn't need to humiliate opponents, doesn't need to establish dominance through destruction. Real confidence just exists, unshakable, certain, complete. You're facing challenges right now, confrontations, conflicts, situations where someone is testing you, questioning you, trying to prove you wrong, and you're wondering how to respond. Do you meet force with force? Do you destroy them to prove your point? Do you humiliate them to establish dominance? Or can you turn your back? Can you demonstrate such complete understanding, such total confidence, such absolute certainty that the challenge ends without violence? That's not weakness, that's strength, real strength, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself because it knows itself completely. Bruce Lee understood something most people never learn. The hardest opponent to defeat isn't the strongest fighter. It's the person so confident in their abilities that they don't need to fight. The person who can turn their back because they know they can handle whatever comes. The person who ends confrontations not by winning but by making fighting unnecessary. That master who challenged Bruce that day learned this lesson, carried it for the rest of his life, taught it to his own students. Real mastery isn't about winning fights. It's about not needing to fight, about understanding combat so completely that you transcend it, about being so aware, so prepared, so confident that you can literally turn your back on danger because danger can't catch you by surprise. 90 seconds. That's all it took. 90 seconds from challenge to resolution. 90 seconds to demonstrate that real power isn't in your fists. It's in your understanding, your awareness, your ability to read situations and people so completely that you're always 3 steps ahead. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is turn your back. Not from fear, not from avoidance, from certainty, from confidence so complete that watching becomes unnecessary, from understanding so total that you know what's going to happen before it happens. That's what Bruce Lee demonstrated that day in Oakland. That's what changed a master's understanding of martial arts. That's what ended a confrontation without a fight, just turned his back. And by turning his back showed everyone watching what real mastery actually looks like.